In this video, I really want to talk about the #1 question that I get asked. And on a recent video, I actually asked a lot of people to leave comments down below saying what they wanted to learn about. And the majority of those comments all came back to this one overarching subject in bass fishing, which is really learning how to find bass and learning how to figure out the bass on different bodies of water. And to me, I'm glad that this was the most asked question because, again, this is the most important. We can learn techniques out there and become very proficient in those techniques. But if you're not in the right place, it doesn't matter what technique you're throwing, you're not gonna catch a bass. So learning how to find fish truly is extremely important. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about a few kind of overarching just things that you should always know when it comes to locating bass. Now, before we get into it, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Finn Fishing. And right now over at Finn Fishing, for just a few more days, just a couple more days, I am running sales over on the website. So my USA made sun shirts, bass hats, the all new duck shorts are all 20% off. A few items, even one of my sun shirts is 30% off. So I'm gonna leave some links down below in the description. Also, real quick, anyone who buys something right now in the month of December, again, a few more days, is going to be put in a contest to win either one, I'm giving away 2 one-of-a-kind bass hats. I'm giving an ARC Tharp Series grinder rod, which is a phenomenal crankbait rod. I'm also giving away an ARC Gravity 7 bait caster. So links down below in the description. Shopping at Finn Fishing is truly the best way to help support the channel. I greatly appreciate it. Now, before we talk about these couple of big things when it comes to finding fish, I am gonna float a little bit of a teaser out here for you guys. I'm in the process of building something, I'm not gonna go into great detail, that I think is going to be a huge resource for anglers when it comes to learning how to find bass on every single type of body of water that you're gonna fish. So it's in the process right now. I'm super excited about it. Something that I've been kind of working on for a while, been thinking about for a number of years, but now I'm putting it together. I'm hoping to launch it sometime in February or March. But anyways, just be on the lookout for that. It is a little bit of a teaser that I wanna float to you guys. Now, let's talk about finding fish. Now, the first thing that I really wanna talk about when it comes to finding fish is that a lot of times, and this is really for motivation standpoint, finding fish is a lot of times just having educated guesses, right? We look at some of the context clues of the body of water that we're fishing. We look at what type of body of water we're fishing. We look at the bait fish that we're fishing. We think about the time of the year, and we make educated guesses on where we think the bass are going to be. I think that the biggest problem, and I know that it's something that I ran into a lot over the years, is that you kind of do a little bit of research before you get to a body of water and you think, man, a bass should be here, a bass should be there, a bass should be there. And then you hit, 2 places or 3 places and you don't catch anything. It automatically starts to kind of get your mindset going negative. Like, this isn't gonna be the day, right? We always like where we land on them on the first place that we go to. But that doesn't happen the majority of time that we are fishing. And what I learned from, especially fishing the Bassmaster Opens, where I would practice for 4 days for an event, 5 days at a time, is that, more times than not, we are making these educated guesses and we are not catching fish right away. But it's all about getting little clues here and little clues there. And I use this term, I've used this term a couple times on the channel before, but I believe that bass fishing, I love football. I love watching college football. Go Buckeyes. Anyways, besides that, they talk about when a quarterback really starts to see the field, how they become just so much more proficient out there, where they really start to anticipate things out there when they're playing football. And I think that a lot of times in bass fishing, there is a point when we get out there on the body of water that we're basically making these educated guesses on where we're going here and there and all over the place. And then something happens. You stumble upon a little bit of something. Maybe you catch a fish and it's in, you pay attention to your surroundings and you're like, maybe I can duplicate that, and I go over here, and then bam, on the very next place that you go to, you catch another fish. And as soon as sometimes that happens, you start to see the field, just like a football player, just like a quarterback, seeing the field. And I have had so many stories over my life of, especially like I said, fishing the Bassmaster Opens, because fishing in the Opens, like you spend so much time. Like I would have massive headaches after days of fishing out there, trying to simply locate fish. But there was always these moments where all of a sudden, bam, something happened. You catch a fish doing something a certain way in a certain area, and it opens up the field. And now the next 4 or 5 places that you go to, bam, you catch a fish. Bam, you catch a fish. Bam, you catch 2 fish. And so when you're out there fishing, this is, like I said, it's more for motivational sake. Just remember that that is a lot of times what happens. It's not going to 2 or 3 places and figuring something out. Sometimes it is really about spending a lot of time out there, but realizing that as soon as you find, or as soon as you figure out that one little thing, how it can just open up the field. And how you can go from fishing for 7 hours and not getting a bite to fishing for 1 hour and catching 10 or 15 or 20 fish. That happens all the time in bass fishing. And so whether you are bank fishing or fishing from a boat, I think it's very important for all of us to just remember that when we're out there on the water. And that's also why I talk about efficiency all the time, because being efficient out on the water, not spending too much time in certain areas, really just trying to get that first bite and then kind of deciding whether that is a spot where fish are or whether it's a pattern that fish can be on, is really what it's all about, is getting that one bite and then slowing down from there. And so it's very, very important to be efficient. And so to me, that is something that is extremely important when it comes to finding bass. The second thing that is so important when it comes to bass fishing is that you always tend to catch bass, except for during the spawn, you always tend to catch bass where there is life in the area. Where there is life in the area. There's been very few times where I've caught fish, whether that's as shallow or deep, where I don't feel like I'm in an area that has life. And I'm not saying that there isn't bass here and there, but when you find these bigger schools of fish or you find areas that have a lot of fish, it's always noticeable how much life there is in the area. And the life can come in a lot of different forms. Sometimes it's simply you see a lot of birds. You know, you see fish eating birds in your area, whether that's an egret or a seagull or whatever it may be. You see birds in an area. Or maybe, for example, I remember, especially when I was learning to fish, I learned fishing on using a 2D sonar. So, and I remember getting into these areas where you start catching fish, you look down on your 2D sonar, and you just realize that there's life in the area. You can see bait fish below the boat. You can see bait fish on the surface, pecking at the surface or doing whatever they do. So one of the biggest things is that when you're running around and you're looking for areas to fish, unless it's in the spawn, don't stop there if you don't feel like there is life in the area. And so sometimes life can be simply one ball of bait. Like sometimes that's all it needs. Sometimes when you're going down the bank, you will simply see bluegill. Like you'll get into an area where there's more bluegill than others. I remember fishing on Lake Champlain. I was fishing particularly shallow in this one event, and I was fishing a lot of different matted vegetation areas, and I was catching like a fish here, a fish there, but I got into this one little section where I started seeing a lot of bluegill. And lo and behold, it was a light switch. I found this one dock, there was a bunch of bluegill there, and there was hundreds. I kid you not. It was a big marina dock. There was hundreds of bass in this area, hundreds. Like you couldn't go through that one little dock section without catching like 10 to 15 bass. And now those were just the catchable ones, not the ones that were just sitting there not eating. And so when you're out there and you're looking for different areas, don't stop unless you truly feel like there is life in the area. Like I said, whether that's birds, whether that's bait, whatever life could be on the bodies of water that you're fishing. It's very, very important to do that. So I think, to me, those are kind of the two biggest things in bass fishing that I think we should always remember when we are trying to locate fish. Is one, remember this is a guess and check game for the most part. Like we talked about, educated guesses, and keep motivated, because as soon as you see the field, man, it can be so easy out there. And two, don't stop unless you see life. I think that that's really, really important. All right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out Fin Fishing, a few more days of the sale, and I will see you guys in the next one.